Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another iGaming exchange. We are here today to talk about the role of aggregators. Yeah, that's right, guys. This is a topic that has been talked to at many conferences, and I don't believe that we ever approached this subject at Hipther. But I have the pleasure of having some great experts here today. Oliver Niner, head of B2B at PandaScore. Hi, Oli, nice to have you here.
Good to see you again, mate. Nice to be here.
All right, we also have Corentin Budney, program director at Quanta. Hi, Corentin, nice to have you.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
All good. And we also have Marcel Tobler, CEO at Swiss Casinos.
Good morning, everyone. Looking forward to our discussion.
All right, so guys, as you may know, the game developers make games, right? The operators are the ones who won the games. But in the middle, these are the aggregators, and they are like that middle seat on the airplane that nobody talks about. But without them, nobody's going anywhere, right? So these folks are doing it all, streamlining access, connecting platforms, smoothing over compliance, like we can say like a wrinkle in a casino carpet. But the games are here, the platform are here, regulation over there, and the aggregators are just like juggling it all, and they're still keeping a smile as you see on our panel here. So now they're not just useful; they're also a pivotal part of the industry. They are like the glue, or we can call them the bridge or the secret sauce of the iGaming ecosystem. So and yeah, it's great to see that they are not stopping. They are actually scaling. They are always innovating. They are like future proofing the whole damn thing. And today, this panel, we'll be digging into some big questions like who are these mysterious aggregators we keep seeing popping up on LinkedIn? What do they actually want, and how are they quietly running the show behind the scenes? So, guys, uh, let's like do a quick round of introduction. You guys just like say a few words about yourselves. Marcel, let's go with you.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to do that. So my name is Marcel. I'm the CEO at Swiss Casinos. We are the largest operator in Switzerland. We have four land-based casinos. We're just opening in December an additional one, and we have one of the largest online casino in Switzerland. So we are fully focused on highly regulated markets.
All right, nice to meet you. And yeah, what other way you can call your company than Swiss Casinos, right?
Right.
Being in Switzerland, cannot
Was an easy
cannot
choice.
call it Estonian casinos. All right, quarantine.
Hi, my name is Corentin. I'm originally from France and I work for Quanta as program director. So Quanta, we're a game aggregation. We also do a white label. And our role is, so my role in the company is to ensure the connection between all the stakeholders internally and externally to make sure that we're able to run the show, as you mentioned, for all the different customers we have, regardless of the jurisdiction they are working on, to make sure that we can support them anywhere, basically.
All right, Ollie. The audience probably knows you best from this session, but yeah, you can still go ahead and share a few words.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here again. My name's Ollie. I'm now head of B2B at PandaScore. So since the last time I was here, I've changed roles. So I was head of sales and now head of B2B. Essentially, so for those who don't know, PandaScore are a provider of odds and data content based around esports and e-battles, which is a different type of kind of video game content. My focus is very much on brand and on topic of what we're talking about here is essentially to facilitate the best use of aggregators for PandaScore and also for PandaScore's customers. Essentially giving the betting and gambling industry the best access to the content that we have via those means because it's obviously a very important aspect of how operators get the content they need.
All right, so let's begin, guys. So my question is for the whole panel, and all the questions will be for the whole panel actually, about the big picture and how would you each define the strategic role of aggregators in today's iGaming ecosystem, and why has their importance surged in the recent years? Marcel, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure, happy. So I believe the reason why aggregators are here is that we don't have standardized APIs in the iGaming area. We have a lot of legacy platform systems that it's really hard to integrate new game providers or actually any third-party providers. And a lot what iGaming is today actually was enabled by aggregators, right? What we see today is hundreds of new games each month. We see new game studios, we see new innovation, and that wouldn't exist without aggregators. And I do believe this is a need in the society. We see that with social media, people need new content. They want to have a short exposure to content and then want to see something new. So that new flow of content, even though the lifetime of content very often is not very long, is needed in today's society. And the aggregators enable operators to get new content from smaller studios where they could never focus time to integrate and actually create that whole idea about online casinos, that there is a lot of new fresh content literally every day. And I do believe we wouldn't have so many game studios without aggregators. It wouldn't work. If you would have to start as a game studio and integrate with one casino at a time, you would be bankrupt before you even have started. So I do believe aggregators made or took part a lot in what we see today as a online casino environment.
All right, that's an important statement, and like I said, it's the most important part of the ecosystem right now. Corentin, what are your thoughts?
I totally agree with Marcel. What we do, like first of all, we connect people. We connect operators to content producers, whether they are game studios, promotional tool, additional features like compliance tool, payment providers, and so on. Right now, we see over 500 game providers in the landscape. If we take the example, and as Marcel said, it's technically impossible for an operator to integrate all of them, but also to keep up with the trend, because we see new games every single day, but we also see new studios every single day, meaning a different API. So our objective is to unify the setup, being available for all our customers in the same way, so they do not need any additional work to have the content available in a fraction of a second, basically. This is our main objective, and this is basically we open the door to the vast ecosystem of the iGaming industry, to the operators, regardless of their size. If we talk about major operators, they would have their own integration team, they would have their own R&D team even, so they would be able to spot on the new content they need. If we talk about smaller operators, they might not even have the time nor the knowledge or the availability to research the content they want or the content they need, the content their end users want. We give them the access to that data we observe with competitors or on different markets, what did work, what did not. We have, let's say, a wider vision, is, if I can say it like that, that can basically ensure the operators to have those insights and an easier access technically, basically.
All right, Ollie, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, both the chaps here have spoken very eloquently about about games and casino, so I can cover off more like sportsbook and esports. And I think you're seeing the same thing. It's the second half of the same problem or issue that you're seeing, but probably whereas the drive of content through the variety of casino games and casino kind of game production kind of fueled the need for aggregators. In sportsbook, you're kind of seeing that starting to happen more because you have large companies which power the development, power the kind of the R&D of larger sports like football, tennis, cricket. And what we see as PandaScore is a challenger sport, which is esports. It's difficult for operators to have the technical bandwidth because they are integrating all of these different casino games and they're obviously adapting to the ever-changing compliance landscape and obviously clearing their own technical debt. They have very limited bandwidth to embrace something new and innovative. So aggregation is the path for them to do that. And we're seeing that happen more and more. We're obviously there's more consolidation within the industry, so there's more companies buying other companies. So that also means that it's harder to for new innovative, not just sports or kind of verticals within sportsbook, but also products within that. So maybe specific new cash out products or bet builder products or these things, niche things within, say, even football or tennis. These types of products and companies that are producing that because the larger companies don't themselves have the bandwidth to produce new innovative product. It is harder for operators to access that, and that's where aggregation becomes key. And we're seeing that more and more now. There's an alignment happening between the world of casino and the world of sports, but in that because the technology is the same technological problem.
All right. So to make it simple for those listening, even if you're a small operator, you can get all the content the big operators have at the same very quickly without having to invest in manpower, IT, etc. So, Ollie, you are going to be first to reply my next question because we're going to reverse now the order. So aggregators often promise simplified integration for operators. That's what everybody promises at the conferences and everywhere. So could you walk us through what that really looks like in practice and what differentiated a strong aggregator from the rest of the pack?
So I think a lot of them do promise that, and some deliver. I think so I'll answer your second question first. So the second
All right.
one, what defines a good aggregator? So essentially, good technology, access to the widest variety of content, and good available resource, and a decent business model. There are a number of different business models where we have things like chargeable work and things that either penalize the game studio or the content provider going into the aggregator for wanting to offer that work to the end customer. That's my personal opinion. I don't think that's a great model. That the only person that wins then is the aggregator who charges for the chargeable work. But there is flexibility within aggregators where you see ones which offer kind of either rev share, like kind of a combining rev share or a take of that, and then also are they backed by the technology? And you're seeing a lot more companies which are technology houses first, and I think that's great. They're not like a legacy PAM or a legacy platform provider that then is kind of shifting and saying, okay, well, I'll just take all this content and then put myself in a strong position and do lots of integration. So it's a varied landscape, but there are great companies there as always. To speak to your first point about kind of how aggregation works and what the benefits are. So I think it's a very, very, again, we're early in sportsbook in this, and I think again there are good companies, there are bad companies. I think we work with 3 at the moment, and we've seen great engagement, desire to get that content out to their customers from 3 of them. We've also then got two customers that we work with where the relationship is a bit more dormant because they suffer from the same problem that ultimately that the operator has. And I think that's a key thing to kind of be, we have to kind of draw attention to is that ultimately we the aggregator will ultimately suffer from the same issue that the operator will have because we're only pushing that problem onto them. So it's important that I think what's going to be really interesting, what I'm excited about is, again, something that both the guys alluded to is that change in alignment with the technicality and how integration works, and can we do something to make that easier? And we're at PandaScore, we're doing that as a content provider and doing that with aggregators and operators. And I think that's a bit which is the exciting bit, which I think will change. I think the technology will align, and I think it's a buzzword at the moment, but through things like the large language models and AI tools and these kind of things, I'm hoping to see more easy technical alignment to get content to the decent aggregators and therefore get it to more people.
All right, Corentin, what's your take on this?
I think the most important is to keep strong requirements on like technically wise, a very strong requirement to ensure a high stability, to being able to scale up, to unify all the transaction types, transaction statuses, whether it like all the rollbacks, the automation of run closures, and so on, which are sometimes functionalities that are not regulatory, like mandatory for all regulations. But we at Quanta, for example, we push for the automation of the run closure every 48 hours that ensure a smooth reports and making sure that there is no open transaction here and there. This is just one example among many others. And it's a challenge because all game providers have different APIs. Some have legacy platforms that are not really up to date with the new technical frameworks and everything that needs to adapt to the modern integrations we see. So this is a challenge for us to unify everything to make sure that from the operator point of view, each producer is the same, technically speaking. Regardless if we're talking about a provider that was developed 15 years ago to a just emerging Crash Studio, for example. For the operator, there shouldn't be any difference in the quality of the content that is being provided and the quality of the API. So unifying all this, ensuring that new studios respect the same requirements than the precursors, let's say the older ones, represent sometimes more work to ensure a smooth integration and so on.
All right, got it. Yeah, this makes a lot of sense, especially given the fact that, like you mentioned, some of them have legacy, and yeah, this is something that we often talk about even in cybersecurity. So, Marcel, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I fully agree with Oli and Corentin. I mean, the heart is really to provide the technology in the middle, and that thing needs to work. It needs to be stable, needs to be available. If that doesn't work, it doesn't fulfill the role that an operator, that the aggregator has. But what I see really interesting is those additional values Corentin mentioned, for example, closing of pending game rounds. But I think it even goes much further, because an additional advantage that an aggregator has is a huge availability of data. So an aggregator has much more data than any operator. And that volume of data has value. And the aggregator is able to see trends and changes in markets much earlier and much clearer than any operator. And I think sharing that knowledge and enabling the operator to make use of that data and to have recommendation what to do next, and maybe also pinpointing the operator to existing trends in other jurisdictions, that has a lot of value. And I think this is even for large operator, that would be a value that could be used to provide a better product to the player.
All right, so I will stick with you now, Marcel, for the next question in terms of regulatory compliance, because the regulation is evolving so rapidly across jurisdictions. How do aggregators help both operators and in some particular cases, some jurisdiction even require developers to stay compliant. So are there any particular regions that represents the most complex challenges?
First of all, I do believe in that regard, an aggregator can actually add value to an operator, but also to a game provider, right? Especially if you're a small game studio and you focus on producing games, it's just overwhelming all the requirements in every different jurisdiction, and it's almost impossible to handle. And I believe there the aggregator can add value to the game providers if sharing that knowledge, and also, as Corentin mentioned, having let's say certain standardization in the integration and actually forcing the game provider to provide certain data or calls or whatever, so that that game provider can increase the jurisdictions he could operate in or provide the games in. And for the operators, again, one of the biggest issues are old platform, are not flexible platforms. And whatever you're going to change, it takes up so much time. And if you need to make changes for regulation, it means you are not able to execute all the improvements you want to do on the player front. And I believe an aggregator can help with certain features that are game related, that you don't need to do that on the platform, but you can rely on the aggregator if you expand your operation into new jurisdictions.
All right, that's good to hear. I'm especially happy to hear such advices, because we do have a couple of operators on the call. In conference next week in Vilnius has also joined, also an operator, so at least he will hear something new. So Corentin, what's your take on this?
I think the starting point of all as an aggregator is to make sure that we centralize all the information and we document everything for each regulatory framework for our operators. What they can struggle with is an access to the information. So at this point, we also act as consultant for them. And similarly to suggesting the right content for their brands, we can advise them on the right behavior and all the needs they need to fulfill for entering a specific market or jurisdiction. So this goes with providing guidance on the compliance overall, whether it's an AML screening, KYC verification, responsible gaming, everything, PEP check. So we do integrate external tools such as Cian, TrueNarrative, Jumio, just to name a few, and ensuring that any operator have an access to all these tools. And the beauty of it is that we give access to these tools to the operators regardless of their markets. So if an operator wants to use Cian, they can. On whatever market they're in, whatever jurisdiction, they can use it. So we kind of make their life easier in that way to help them with all the fraud checks, affordability checks, everything. And this for all the jurisdictions and all the rules that can be needed. For example, in Germany, like technically speaking, there is different endpoints that have to be used. We do have different integrations. We do provide different credentials for the operators depending on their jurisdiction. So it's about supporting them and giving them the information, consulting for them, as well as providing them with the technical availability in that sense.
All right, Ollie.
So yeah, I mean, to echo what the guys have said, I mean, let's drill in a little bit into maybe the again, sportsbook and PAM from my perspective. So what does aggregation give you? So aggregation should give you easier market entry if you pick the right aggregator, depending on the jurisdictions you want to enter. So it will help you with your licensing process. You know, there's aggregators that you can work to, which will give you easier, I won't say easy, but easier access to markets like North America, you know, newly regulated Brazil, these areas. You can work with specifically platform providers with a view of a different type of aggregation there that will give you that access, and will also make sure that their content is aligned with that application and that certification process to access those markets. So that's a real benefit of aggregation, because it consolidates all of that work and all of that knowledge, and then that obviously is an extension of what the guys have both spoken about. In terms of what that does for the content providers, again, it that consolidates, and that you know what you need to do. If you're working with a provider, you know, you can go and attack and say, okay, as part of our sales strategy, we can target Brazil, we can target North America, we can target jurisdictions in Asia if we wanted to. That's incredibly important. But also, there's that additional piece about working with an aggregator for a smaller content provider, no matter what, ultimately does give you access to those markets. Because let's look at the USA an example. If you're a smaller content provider, say you've come up with a new NFL bet builder product, you need to get that in order to get that into the states that you want to. You need to get that certified. You need to pay the fees. You need to do multiple different things for multiple different states in order just to kind of get an inch into that market. And you, as a company that size, may not have the bandwidth, the cash flow, whatever you have to in order to do that. So working with a strategic partner, which is a well-placed aggregator, can essentially jump that step and give you access to that market, and therefore, you know, you compromise a bit. You're compromising a little bit commercially. You're probably compromising a little bit in reach, because you don't have access to everyone. You have access to the aggregation partner that you're working with, who they're working with. But it does get you into that market and does take away that load, which means that you then have a foot there, and you can work, and that works globally. And I think that's very, very important.
All right. So since I also mentioned that aggregators are definitely driving innovation beyond infrastructure, we've seen that aggregators have increasingly have influenced the content innovation of the operators. So what trends are you seeing in how aggregators support or even drive innovation in game development and user engagement? Ollie.
So I can't speak for game development like the other guys can, so I can talk again about sports. And I think like, to challenge slightly what you say, I would say that aggregation allows for more innovation. There are definitely some aggregation partners, as they are technology companies, that will do produce great product. They do, no doubt, and like, because they're at the bastion of producing, you know, they have to, but they are looking at it. If you're thinking about platform, sportsbook, casino, they are looking at everything. So the channel of innovation can only be where they focus, because they've become the operator. But what they do allow is they allow for that edge content, or those companies that are at the edge and who want to innovate, who want to produce stuff. We're one of those. We innovate on esports. We produce multiple different products. We're first to market with many, because we have that niche. We have we focus on esports. We focus about what we're into. We know we're good at it, and we can innovate ourselves. And what aggregation allows is it almost gives us an audience with operators we wouldn't have had that to access that content. And therefore that makes the whole market more competitive. And I think that is super important. It's as important as the aggregation partners' ability themselves to innovate. They're allowing of people from the whole space and ecosystem to bring in their ideas and their approaches and their new products, and that's not just again in specific verticals, that's in all verticals, and it's the way that's happening at the moment.
All right, Corentin.
It's actually a blend of many different actions that allow us to at least be part of the innovation. So first of all is the contribute to the speed, to the how fast we can integrate the content and how quick the emerging studios can see their product live on operators, regardless of the number of games they can offer. And taking the example, if an emerging studio has only 2, 3, less than 5 games that are live, let's be honest, not a single operator will integrate this game provider, not any. Whereas as an aggregator, we will integrate this content provider, and we will help them to enter into the market. We will push their content to the right operator as well, because that can be overwhelming for the producers as well to really realize where their ideas can be brought to life. So in that sense, we are not the innovator of the product itself, talking about the game, but we contribute to promote the innovation where it's supposed to be promoted and give an early access to the operators that we believe will also make profit from that content that is not seen everywhere else, basically. So this is the pivot that allows all the different actors to have the right content, use the right content, and promote it in the right way. Taking back to this, we add the data, all the data we have access to. We consult with the operators, with the game providers, and we know what works, we know what does not. We know the trend on each market, so we can definitely help the studios and or at least give them feedback of what they should focus on and what we hear from the operators, because operators talk to us more than they would talk to the game providers, I suppose, because we are exactly in the middle of the conversation from the operators and the producers, but from all their partners. It can be producers, it can be promotional tools. And if I take the gamification tools, for instance, operators tend to try new features, new missions, new bonus system, new loyalty scheme, and these A/B tests multiplied by the number of operators we have on board, multiplied by the number of producers we have, allow us to really think outside the box and realize what can complete what has been done in the past from similar providers or from the providers themselves, to give them that analytics and critical thinking to help drive new ideas, and push the engagement to work basically all together on that in that beautiful industry that is ours. Because this is really rich to being able to connect the dots of different actors like this.
Yeah, it makes sense because, like you said, there are many small studios out there, but sometimes these studios are actually bringing great games and good innovation.
Exactly.
And they would not have access to clients if you guys weren't in the middle. So, Marcel, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with Corentin and Ollie. I mean, the aggregators are not the innovators, but they are the enablers of the innovation. And my prediction is our players expect in the future more newer, fresher content even quicker. That's a trend where we see on content in general, not only in gambling. And I also predict the number of new ideas, new game ideas, new studios, new games will explode over the next years. I mean, if you look at all the technology that is there, that is supporting actually to create the game, that is supporting you to get to create the game logic, it's going to be much, much quicker to create the game and to realize a game idea. So it's going to be essential that as an operator, I can test new game ideas that is out there every day. Every day I test new things to figure out what is the next big thing. And obviously, again, here the aggregation platform can be helping with data, as Corentin mentioned, of course, for the game producer, but also for an operator. And the only big thing I have, as an omni-channel operator, so we have land-based casinos and online casinos. So the difference between the experience gonna even increase, right? Because in the online casino world, you have so much fresh new content, new ideas, and in the land-based, we were not able to increase the speed of providing new content to our players, I don't know, over the last 10 years. We are still very slow. If we have new content every 6 months, we are already happy. But and that will be the case, most casino visitors in the land-based casino will have an experience in the online casino. And that's going to be really a challenge because they expect new content, new ideas, and they won't find it in the land-based. And the aggregators are really the enablers that great development, that the great experience can happen in the online space.
All right, so this reminds me of a podcast we recorded a while ago about influencers. You guys are like the influencers out there, like you have the providers and the end user on two sides, and in the middle you can give advice about their products. So yeah, the guys can consider yourself as the influencers then as well. So Ollie already touched based a bit on the market expansion and market access. So Marcel, how do aggregators enable faster or smarter entry into emerging markets? And can you maybe share examples of how aggregator support have made market entry possible or even more efficient, faster?
Yeah, I think Ollie and Corentin mentioned already quite a bit on that before. And I believe in that area, it's really sharing information. Again, I mean, I think one big advantage is data that the aggregator has that the operator and actually the game provider do not have. So just being able to tap into that knowledge base saves you months of work of analysis what you have to offer in a certain market or what is required actually from you as a game provider in a certain market. So obviously it makes it quicker and it makes it safer because instead of testing what works, you have a reliable partner that can tell you from the past what worked and where you should focus on. So I believe beside technical things and also, let's say, compliance and certification aspects, I think that knowledge, that is really critical.
All right, Corentin, Ollie, anything to add to this?
I agree with Marcel. It's on our side, it's also a technical case. We always need to be proactive and make sure that we document everything. So we create we get the data that is correct, but we need to use it in the right way as well. It's the most important. So generate these reports, saving them, provide a study case to the operators for all the markets that they want to enter. So they actually have the data they need to enter the market, whether it's for content payments, can be affiliates as well, because we don't talk much about them, but it's also an important part of the puzzle, and all of this created in a way that also allows the operators to get a clear idea of like using different method, like a different methodology, but to use our advices to get an MVP, for example, and to go live with, let's say, the strong mandatory requirements to help them then grow little by little, step by step, not to burn any step, you know. This is very important to
All right.
to ensure and to help them realize what is the exact priority and the exact importance of every game provider, payment method, and so on.
Ollie?
Yeah, I mean, I can echo anecdotally both of what the guys have said. So essentially, I've worked for both I've both operator side and also for on content delivery in multiple different products. And the aggregators who you want to work with and the ones that are, it's a great word that Marcel used, which is enable you to do things and share knowledge and make it easy for you to, on both sides, for you to either get your content to the operator who wants it and therefore to achieve that new market entry. So say let's talk about Brazil. We are working with aggregators who know that market very well and who know the landscape and know what to do in order to access that. Same with certain US states. We're working with a great aggregator who is working with us and I wouldn't, making our life easier is probably a wrong way of putting it, but you sharing their knowledge and sharing the approach that they've gone through in order to make it easier for us to go through that process ourselves and again work with the partner. So they're almost like they are that bridge, and that isn't just technologically, that is in a kind of intellectually and commercially. So I think that's super important. I think, and you can really pick the right people to work with in terms of that based on their willingness and their desire to actually want to share their own knowledge and get you where you want to be, both as a content provider and as an operator.
All right. So for those who are not very familiar or just starting to get familiar with aggregators, you will need to know that it's not just about the middleman between the studios and the operators, but there's also collaboration with third parties, which involves payment providers and nowadays, of course, the much needed anti-money laundering providers, etc. So they are just like sitting in this intersection of many stakeholders. So Ollie, you will go first again. So how do aggregators facilitate collaboration among developers, operators, and also the third party services?
Well, I've been there. I've done it. I've worked for a startup aggregator for a year and a half, and it's about I think you listen to your customers. You obviously look at the markets. You can't go everywhere all at once. If you're an aggregator, you can see the ones that are stretched and are trying to do something over here in Brazil and over here in Asia and down in Africa. You end up with exactly the same problem that the operator has in that you have to please all people. I think it's important that you know what a good grounding of content across everything is. So what's a good solid product for sports, but what do I need? What are the providers that I want to work for casino that could deliver the best content there? And therefore, what's the other kind of areas that you spoke to, Zoltan, about the tooling, about the I don't want to say periphery, but the things that aren't just sexy products. They're things that
Yeah.
are very important, anti-money laundering and these kind of things. You make sure that those things you have a base of and payments because payments is key for you to operate in the territories that you want to offer. So you need I think if you're an operator and you're looking to work with an aggregator, you have to kind of make sure that you have a good view that they have a sensible scope for what they want to offer and what they want to do. And if you're the aggregator, you have to make sure you start from a good base. Um, After that, it's all about your strategic view. What's important to you? Where do you want to go? What? Because again, you can't go everywhere all at once. And we've, I've worked with providers historically who want to do everything, and in the end, they leave their operators and their customers frustrated because they can't deliver everything they promise, and the operator feels a bit left behind, or doesn't feel that they have any autonomy, and that's the danger. And I think it's important for aggregators to always think about that, and to think about what, that they can cover the base and that cover the important things that the operator wants, but remain agile enough and not overstretch themselves, which is hard.
All right.
It's very hard to do that.
All right, Corentin, what's your take on this?
As I previously mentioned, we connect people before connecting technology, and this is actually the core of our business. Is to make sure that a clear communication is possible amongst the different stakeholders, whether it is for the operator, the game providers, each third-party provider that can be in the picture at any moment, any moment of the life cycle of the operator. We need to get interested enough to our operators and make sure that we know how they manage their operations. We need to adjust our way of working rather than imposing it to the operators. Because I've been working for operators as well, and had different experiences with different aggregators. Some aggregators would leave you totally flexible and allow you to have clear communication with all the partners, whereas some other aggregators tend to try and take control over your operations and remove a bit that flexibility and freedom that the operators would need to grow and to operate in the most efficient way. I believe that we're not here to handle anyone's business. We're here to be the pivot, as in a three-way partnership, make sure that the right stakeholders on the operator side is in touch with the right stakeholders on the provider side, and that they can communicate together, and us in the middle suggesting them what actions would be beneficial for all of them. And adapt this way of seeing and acting depending on the people we have in front of us and depending on their structure and their business.
All right, Marcel?
Yeah, as an operator, I have a very strong view on that. I do not believe that it is effective for an operator to find a partner that solves all your problems, because what you're going to end up with is no flexibility, and it's a Medicore service. I do believe it needs focus if you want to be good at it, and I do believe this is the advantage of an aggregator, because they focus on providing content to the online casino. If you start now to add additional services, you lose that focus, and at the end, everything is Medicore and not anymore excellent in the area you wanted to work together with the aggregator. So I strongly believe, and when we choose partners, we always make sure they have a focus, and we don't take somebody that promise that they can solve all the problems we have, because that's never going to work.
All right. So we all seen that the aggregator space is becoming increasingly competitive. You guys are not yet fighting among each other, but we might get to that at a certain point. So my question, of course, would be, you can now start bragging about your companies, about what are some of the key differentiators that operators and developers should look when choosing an aggregator. Marcel, you go first.
Yeah, I do believe, again, as I mentioned before, a focus is essential to provide a superior service and delivery. And I think it's essential that the aggregator, that they have a strategy, just to conquer the whole world and provide all the games. That's probably not a strategy. And you need to make sure that you have a clear picture how you're going to differentiate yourself. Is it by superior in providing additional data for the operator for game selection? Is it a certain niche market where you actively provide new content? Is it gamification tools because of the data you have? So I think you need to have your vision you believe in, and you need to find the operators that are looking for that vision, or for the tool that can solve that specific problem. But I do believe, since there is always more content coming, it's coming quicker, then the number of game provider will be increasing. Right now, it's an interesting market, right? It's still growing. There is still problems out there to be solved for the operators. So I do believe and project for the next couple of years that aggregators will be able to grow and actually increase their importance for the whole iGaming ecosystem.
All right, Corentin.
Yeah, I agree with Marcel totally on everything. And I mean, we do always tend to differentiate ourselves with the price, the speed to market, with exclusive content, because that's what matters to the operators at the end of the day. I think we should mostly put an importance on the human factor here, and what makes us stand out is the transparency and the flexibility in our account management, in how we communicate with people, and how flexible we can be with their requests. Obviously, we need to be fast for everything. Rather, it's to reply their questions, but to answer their technical needs as well. This is the challenge. We cannot afford to take 5 months, for example, to integrate a game provider, because in 5 months that game provider will be available everywhere, and we are not competitive anymore, because we do not come as a precursor. So this is very important to always work hard on staying above the trend and be part of the trend by partnering up with the right people, promoting the right partners to the right operators as well. All of this create that bubble that makes us different than someone else. The exclusivity of the content is also definitely something that is very important, especially since we have new game types popping up, and now we can see the trend of the end users are different than they were 10 years ago. We do not only have slot players or live casino players. We have crash players. We see also a trend of multiplayer tools, multiplayer engines that arrive, and it adjusts with that new audience as well, to have this more gamification, but more community aspect to gambling, which allows all the users to connect with themselves as well, and create a space for the actual end users on the operators' brands.
All right, Ollie.
So I can speak very similarly to what the guys say as well, but I think it's very important. So what we do at PandaScore is we are a content provider, but we also do aggregate. So we aggregate battles content from the partners that we work with. So for us, it speaks to a point that Marcel made, is we specialize in, we know what we're good at. We know we're great technologically, so we can do integration. So that's why we decided to do the aggregation. And also we know about esports. We know about video games. We know about that type of content. So we know we're confident in aggregating that, and we'll stick to that, for the time being. As we grow, who knows in the future what happens with the business. But the other side of things is also who do we, because our content is aggregated, who do we decide to work with as well? And I think that's really important. So which aggregators do we work with? And I think we've gone through learnings as a company and making sure that we work with the right partners who can deliver our content well to our customers, who are timely, are sharp, and can work in that way. I think that's really important. So there's two choices, and they follow the same principle, and it echoes what both Marcel and Quentin say as well.
All right, so let's also talk about the challenges that you guys might face or some pain points, because every business has them. So my question is about what are the biggest challenges that aggregators are facing today? Is it technical, regulatory, or commercial? And how do you address them? Ollie, you go first. Oh, I guess there's some problem. Oh, can you hear us, Ollie?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I got that again. Sorry, I cut out then. Can you repeat the question?
So it's about the challenges you guys are facing as aggregators. So what I'm interested about, what are the biggest ones? Is it technical, regulatory, or commercial, or and of course, how do you address them?
I think going full circle around what I spoke to before, I think the commercial model is important. There's challenge particularly for someone like us where you go B to B to B, then to C. There's a ever decreasing kind of amount of revenue to go there because obviously ultimately you want your customer to have the ultimate value. So there is a challenge there. Again, speaking to the point that I made earlier about the breadth that can't, and again, it's a point that I know Marcel made it, but again, it's having focus. Speaking from a perspective of working with platform providers specifically who aggregate lots of content, don't go too big. You are the operator in the end. You end up with the same problems that they do, and then also all aggregation partners, we work in the technology space. We work in gaming and gambling, but ultimately it's a technology space. Invest in your technology. Understand what your stacks are like. Understand, is your team optimized? Is your team focused? Is the underlying technology good? Because I speak to 20 years of experience of knowing working for companies where we've done initial bouts of aggregation, but then ultimately the underlying technology decays, and that needs to be updated over time. So I think the problems are multiple, and they can be, and they're things that people need to be alive to, but they're all solvable. And again, we're going through an age of change in technology, so I'm hoping we'll see even faster ability for customers to get that content. Not just I think the guys working in casino and gaming content have nailed that quicker than us over in sportsbook and in sports betting. But I'm hoping we'll start seeing that innovation happen over here too, soon too, because I think it's important that innovation applies to sportsbook as much as it does for casino.
All right, Corentin, the middle guy in the discussion.
Thank you. Yeah, it's to get back to what we previously said as well. Technically speaking, the challenge is to unify the content and to provide the operator with the same exact content transaction types from all the providers we have. So sometimes it's a bottleneck. We do have to spend time, sometimes even on negotiating with game providers to adapt the way they send us responses. I can take example of jackpots. Some game providers will send you a jackpot related to a game round. Some other will send it to you as a unique transaction. And we cannot send it in a different way to the operators, because otherwise it means that we need to offer different transaction types for the exact same transaction type originally, if that makes sense. So there is a lot of negotiation, even on the technical side, with game providers, which happens mostly with legacy platform, because we need to ensure that everything is suitable for 2025 and beyond, let's say. There are some regulatory challenges, obviously, because we have more and more regulations, more and more markets are getting regulated, and the trend is not going to change. It will be more and more. So we need to adapt. We need to ensure that we can respect those frameworks, and that we can clearly communicate and restrict the potential threat that we can face.
All right, Marcel.
Yeah, I think Phil, already a lot was said before, but building new technology is easy. Keeping technology new, that's the hard part. And the biggest challenge is to avoid that happens the same to an aggregation platform, but happen to many PAM system, that within a few years you have a legacy system and you are no longer able to provide the speed which was before your USP, which you were able to provide to the operator. So I believe this is the hardest part, to keep your technology stack up to date. And I mean, what would help the whole iGaming industry would obviously be kind of a standardization of the APIs. I mean, that would make so many things quicker and faster. But looking at the environment right now, I don't see any signs, even though that would make sense, that happens anyway soon. So providing that piece of technology in between will also in the foreseeable future be very, very important to keep that industry connected together.
All right. So since you mentioned the forward thinking, let's look ahead, because AI, blockchain are something that are no longer buzzwords. They actually have a huge impact on everything. So how do you see aggregators evolving with the advancement in AI and blockchain, and also the personalization of the gaming experience itself is changing rapidly. So what excites you? What concerns you about this future, Marcel?
So I'm really excited to see way more content, way more ideas realized in a game than what we even could imagine today. The speed, I mean, as the saying goes, right? In the past, we were never so quick with new content. In the future, we will never be so slow as today with new content. So this gonna further evolve, and it's gonna be easier to create games. You don't need anymore a large game studio. If you're one guy that understands a little bit of coding, has a good game idea, uses AI, you will be able to create the game. And I think then the aggregator will even be more importantly, because I believe they will enable one-man game studios in the future to distribute their games to online casinos. And the content that is available, the new ideas that will be tested in the future, will be so much more than what we see today. So and the casinos will have a much harder time to decide, what are we going to put on the first-hand spot on my website, because I literally can choose probably of 100 new games every day. And to make the right decision on that, we need data, and probably the best partner to be able to provide that data will be the aggregator.
All right. So vibe coding, which is a thing now, will eventually have its benefits. Corentin.
What excites me the most is the games recommendation and how dynamic we can rent the lobbies or each different sections of the websites. So we can provide content faster and more diverse, and we can personalize it. But what is super interesting for the end users is that they can access the content they want directly, because you just have to, with a recommendation tool, prompt it the right way and using the right data, the right angles, you you will push the content that the players want to see, but also the content that you want to promote at the time that you want to promote it. So without any manual action, your content is going to be dynamic at different hours of the day, depending on if there is a tournament, if there is a campaign, if there is a special offer. And this ultra personalization will allow to broaden the offering to players who might feel a bit lost when they launch when they open a lobby and they see that games are not talking to them at that exact moment. So the outreach will definitely be much bigger, and we will see new tools and new features emerge like almost on a weekly basis, if I can say it like that. If we use the AI in the right way, like we have the AI agents that can technically help us with a productivity that we've never seen before. As Marcel said, we can see a one-man studio. A very short team will be able to provide the operators with a support that technically would require 50 people if we're talking about just 2-3 years ago. So the expansion is insane, and how we can personalize the experience to both the operators and the end users. However, the over reliance on AI can be dangerous, because we might lose the branding if not prompted the right way. We will not be able to keep the brand image, and this is something that is very important. We need to use AI as a tool, as an expansion to our brain, as multiple arms to being able to do 10 tasks at the same time, but it should remain that expansion of our creativity. Unblock some ideas, but the source of the idea and the source of the brand should remain the same and should remain super important. If I can say it like that.
All right. Yeah, we actually had a podcast episode where we had the guest. It was ChatGPT. So we connected him with the voice option, and we talked with him for almost 1 hour. Uh, it was very interesting to see, and yeah, he actually said about himself that he is a tool that can be used. So yeah, it was a very like out of this world talk when talking to an AI. But yeah, it was very interesting to see, and it certain points that you mentioned about keeping the brand and not losing the creativity part of it. Yeah, that reflected in that talk. So Ollie, what's your take on this?
I mean, the most exciting thing I can think of is that is the making integrations more efficient. And Marcel alluded to this earlier, we are looking at a lot of legacy platforms, a lot of legacy systems within operators. And if AI can unravel that and enable aggregators, within aggregators, within operators, enable that flow of content and flow of innovation to be simpler. If that can happen, not just for casino games, if that can happen for sportsbook providers, then you'll see more innovation. You'll see better products going all the way down the left-hand nav of a sportsbook. You'll see better golf products, better esports products. You'll see better F1 products. You'll see innovation across all of that. And that's super exciting, because we sportsbooks have been fairly static for a long period of time. We've seen innovations on the edge of things, refinements to cash out, refinements to pricing, refinements, automations, live markets, these things. But actually enabling the swell of kind of innovative products, innovative ways to do sportsbook, and enabling that integration is super exciting. And if we can get any of these, ChatGPT or any of these models to have a look at it, and operators open their doors or aggregators open their doors to allow those operators, allow those tools to look at their infrastructure and say, how do I integrate this easily, and what's the code, and can that be done quickly? That's super exciting, and I think that's simply. I think, and also a secondary point to make as well is that I think aggregation is also happening within these large multinational companies. I won't speak to specific examples, but I can tell you that we're working with, I know that we're working with 2, 3, 4 of them who aren't technically aggregators, but they own multiple brands, and they have to produce their own aggregator within their own large business in order to aggregate that content to all of their brands, because that's the most efficient way of working. So I think there's learning happening from the whole aggregation piece, even within the traditional B2C environment. And I think that's really interesting, and let's see how that develops.
All right. So as a closing question, Ollie, you go first on this. What's one piece of advice you would give to operators or developers about working effectively with aggregators in the next, maybe let's say 1 or 3 years?
Do your due diligence at all levels, and take your time, do proper comparison, benchmarking, understand, you know, I know this point was made earlier, work out that human connection, because that is the first thing, is actually, can you work with these people? Because the technology is fueled by the people that you work with. So do your due diligence on understanding the scope of what they have and their ability to offer content in all different directions. Can they onboard it? Can they deliver it? But also, and couple that with a commercial model. But yeah, are they people you feel you can work with? Is it a partnership over? Because these aggregation deals tend to, they're 3-year partnerships. So are these people that you're going to work with very closely for 3 years? Because they're going to be super important to your business. So I would say that due diligence and that human alignment is very important. So take your time in that decision making. As much as I've been a salesperson, as much as we push you, to sign quickly and work with us, you're doing the right thing if you're taking your time.
All right, Corentin.
Exactly. Partner up. You need to work with the right people, and not focus only on the commercials, not only on the content they can provide you, but with the expertise. And it's a partnership. We're humans. We unfortunately we cannot be friends with everyone. It's basically the same in business relationship. So partner up with the right people, and this strong partnership will then allow you to think outside the box, to experiment, to communicate, to build something strong together, and really listen to the audience and adapt to the changes that we're facing at the moment, because we're getting closer and closer to that community aspect. The days of gambling alone at home are far behind. I think the community spirit is coming very strong, and this is something that people need to focus on, definitely, to have that aspect of we're in a digital era. Let's make the best out of it to allow people to connect with other people rather than close themselves on their side, if that makes sense. And have fun. We're entertaining people at the end of the day. It's very important to listen to all our surroundings, listen to the people, what they expect from us, but people need to have fun. That's what we exist for. That's what gambling is about, is having fun. So it's very important at all part of the process.
Exactly. So, Marcel, knock it out of the ballpark.
Good. I fully agree with Ollie mentioned with make your due diligence. There needs to be a state-of-the-art technology because that's the base what is delivered. I agree with Corentin. You need to enjoy working with the people you work together. And what I would like to add is don't just sit there and wait what the aggregate throws towards you. Go to the aggregator, ask questions, challenge the aggregator, ask for data, bring in your hypothesis, check them together with the aggregator. You need to talk to the aggregator. Don't wait that everything is delivered. You get the best service if you challenge the aggregators. And I'm sure every aggregator enjoys those challenges because that's why they are here for. And I really do hope as an omni-channel operator in the future we have for land-based, hopefully a similar model where we can have all that additional value provided and we don't just have to work with single game providers. I mean, that is really something great we have in the iGaming industry, and aggregators do add a lot of value to our ecosystem.
All right, those are some great parting words. And with this occasion, I would like to thank you for your time for this session. Your insights were invaluable, and I hope that our audience also enjoyed it. You can, if you missed this, you can watch the recording on the iGaming Knowledge Hub on European Gaming, but it will also be available on the Hipther TV YouTube channel and on LinkedIn. So thank you guys once again for joining, and wishing you all the best. Have a great day ahead. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank